The year is 1939. On September 1st, Germany, under the leadership of dictator Adolf Hitler, invaded Poland. That same month, the USSR, Union of Socialist Republics, under the communist leadership of Joseph Stalin, also invaded Poland. On September 3rd, Britain and France declared war. But even with its allies at war, the United States decided to continue practicing isolationism. However, this would not last for long. Though, for now, the European front was avoidable, the Pacific front was not. In 1937, Japan invaded China. Roosevelt was not happy. The U.S. declared a trade embargo on oil, steel, and scrap iron, forcing the Japanese to invade Southeast Asia for natural resources. Japan's involvement in the Tripartite Pact of Germany and Italy also made the U.S. fear Japanese involvement in the war. Overall, Japanese-American relations were rapidly worsening. And to cap it off, General Hideki Tojo took over Japanese foreign relations as prime minister. It goes without saying that when survival is threatened, struggles erupt between peoples, and unfortunate wars between nations result. Tojo was not a believer in peace with the U.S., and believed war was inevitable. His belief proved to be true. After countless unsuccessful negotiations between both powers, the Japanese initiated an air attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. That same day, America declared war.
Today, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
On December 11th, Germany and Italy declared war on the U.S. America's period of isolationism has come to an end. Thousands of young men enrolled in the Army, and the Pacific War was underway.
His uniform is ill-fitting, his appearance unsoldierly, even comic according to Western standards. At drill, he may lack precision. But he is hard. He is able. He knows his job. His endurance is phenomenal. He'd just as soon go over a mountain.
As the war began to grow more chaotic, more than 140,000 U.S. soldiers were taken to the Japanese prisoner of war camps. Prisoner of war camps often held civilians who had arrived in the East before the war started, and also people in the military. These camps were found in Japan and in Japanese-occupied countries, such as Taiwan and Singapore. The Japanese ignored the terms established by the Geneva Convention, which were the basic rights given to the captured, and prisoners of the Japanese found themselves in very poor living conditions, being tortured, beaten, and starved.
The worst part, I think, about being in the cell was submarines. A submarine came in, of course, they never see prisoners. So they can't wait till they line up in front of your cell, 75, 80 men lined up like going to a movie premiere. And every one of them is either swearing at you, throwing rocks at you, jabbing you with sticks, spitting on you.
The majority of prisoners worked on a diet of 600 calories a day of soybeans and seaweed, and were forced to work 12 hours a day, doing vigorous tasks such as laying tracks, working in shipyards, and building bridges. Prisoners of war were treated as slaves, to the discretion of the camp leader, and if they did not abide to their demands, they were often hurt or executed in front of others.
I'm glad I wasn't the one, and they beat him up with the belt. And these guys were really hurt, not I. And then they put him in a cage, but this low, stuff it in there, and they sat down there for a week.
The movie Unbroken, directed by Angelina Jolie, was based on the 2010 book by Laura Hillenbrand, Unbroken, a World War II story of survival, resilience, and redemption, and depicts the harsh realities of these prison of war camps. Unbroken explores harsh treatment of Japanese war prisoners. The movie mainly revolves mostly around the American Olympian Louis Zamperini, who was flying as a bombardier of the United States Army Air Force B-24 Liberator on a rescue mission. The plane crashes, and Louis and two fellow comrades are the only ones who survive, safely making it to a raft. On the 47th day, Japanese forces capture the men and take them to an execution island. The two men are transferred to a camp in Tokyo, where Zamperini was cruelly treated by a Japanese sergeant, Mutsushiro Wantabe, nicknamed the Bird. The Bird was especially brutal to Zamperini, demanding him to do demeaning tasks.
Must be taught respect. Each prisoner will teach him this lesson.
Zamperini was offered to send a message home, reassuring his family that he was safe. But Zamperini refused to do a second broadcast because it had an anti-American message demonstrating his true nationalism.
This is your Louis talking. I am now interned in a Tokyo prisoner of war camp.
Prisoners continued being worked to death, a scene that depicts the brutal and demoralizing treatment of prisoners was when Zamperini sprained his ankle and the Bird tells him to lift a large piece of wood and hold it above his head.
Don't look up!
Prisoners of war were often treated as slaves to the discretion of camp leaders, often forced to do things for their survival. As the war ended, Zamperini successfully returned home, sharing his experiences of the war, but his memories of the mistreatment followed him throughout his life.
I'm still suffering nightmares, waking up screaming, strangling the Bird. And one night I accidentally strangled my wife in my dream. I just figured the more I drank, the better I'd sleep at night. So I was out every night drunk.
Many movies across time have been corrupted by Hollywood, completely changing the historical context of a significant event. However, in this movie there is more fact than fiction, consisting of the story of a brave war Olympian veteran. The first shot that appears are bullets flying towards the aircraft, looking very similar to what was actually used in World War II.
However dark the night, however dim our hopes.
Inbound 4 o'clock low.
The main portion of this movie took place in prisoner of war camps, those conditions very similar to the real camps. As Zamperini recounts,
here you are, 65 pounds. You got constant diarrhea. You're starved. They throw a rice ball. They don't give it to you. It falls on the floor. You have to spend hours picking up every grain of rice mixed in with it.
The same event occurred in the movie. The torture did not end there, for the Japanese sergeant, the Bird, also severely beat the prisoners, especially Zamperini. Not only in the movie, but the severity of the beatings were even admitted by the Bird.
ビート、ケックンというのは白人社会においては非常な仕打ちだと。ただ殴ったりピートしたりする程度のものは共同生活の中でやむを得ない場合もあったわけです。
He thought it was necessary to harass them in order to support Japan. Accounts like this have happened not only to Zamperini, but also to other American war veterans such as Jim Horton.
Not to be in touch with them, is to stay away from them as much as you could. But, you know, sometimes they'd get after some people for certain things and beat on them.
Was there a sense that some of their abuses were just arbitrary, just without cause?
Yes.
Overall, Unbroken is factually accurate, showing the harsh conditions in Japanese prisoner of war camps. American prisoners of war suffered extreme pain, but are viewed as heroes that fought against dictatorship and peace.